The quiet town of Hollowbrook had always worn its peace like a well-fitted glove. Nestled between dense forests and a winding river, its streets were dotted with flickering porch lights and no outlet signs, the kind of place where neighbors still borrowed sugar and crime rarely made it past gossip. But on a chilly September night, the glow of a payphone outside a shuttered gas station pierced the darkness. The 911 call came in at 2:14 a.m., a raspy voice reporting screams from the old textile warehouse on Mill Road. Dispatchers noted the caller's odd calm. No panic, no follow-up, just a clipped, "Someone's in trouble," before the line went dead. Rookie officer Mara Voss was the first to arrive. At 24, she'd spent most of her 6 months on the force writing parking tickets and mediating disputes over overgrown hedges. The warehouse, with its sagging roof and graffiti-tagged walls, felt like a trap. Her flashlight cut through the gloom, exposing rusted machinery and puddles of rainwater. Then, the smell hit her, metallic, sharp. Blood. Beneath a broken skylight, a single folding chair sat centered in the room, surrounded by scattered rolls of duct tape and a serrated hunting knife, its blade still wet. Fresh tire marks gouged the dirt outside, and drag marks led to where a vehicle had parked. But there was no body, no victim, no sign of life. Back at the station, Mara replayed the scene in her head. Had it been a prank? A twisted rehearsal? Hours later, the answer came from an unexpected source. A security camera atop a nearby liquor store, its lens cracked but functional. The grainy footage showed a figure in a black mask hauling a limp woman toward a white van at 2:05 a.m. 9 minutes before the 911 call. The van's plates were mud-smeared, its make and model generic. By the time the video reached police, the vehicle had dissolved into the night. The victim's identity became Hollowbrook's first mystery. No missing person reports matched her description: petite, blonde, wearing a turquoise pendant shaped like a star. Detectives canvassed the town, but the necklace drew blanks. Mara, however, couldn't shake the timing. The killer had lingered, waiting to call until after the van was gone. It wasn't a cry for help. It was a taunt. A challenge. Days turned to weeks without leads. The case grew cold, but Mara kept returning to the warehouse, scouring the perimeter for clues others had missed. Beneath a pile of rotted cardboard, she found a cigarette but, unfiltered, a brand sold only at a truck stop 20 miles north. Then, a faint smear of purple paint on a doorframe, the same shade used in local graffiti tags. But what chilled her most was the realization that the killer had known police would come. They'd left the knife and tape in plain sight, a stage set for an audience. The break came on a rain-soaked morning when an evidence tech, reviewing the liquor store footage frame by frame, spotted a reflection in the van's side mirror, the blurry outline of a second person, watching from the shadows across the street. Whoever had made the 911 call hadn't just witnessed the crime, they'd filmed it. The killer wasn't working alone. And they were just getting started. By the time the lab matched the warehouse blood to a DNA database hit, a waitress from a neighboring county, alive but refusing to speak to police, Mara knew this wasn't about saving lives. It was a game, one where the rules shifted daily. And the next move, she feared, would be personal. The flames devoured the lakeside cabin in jagged orange tongues, casting an eerie glow across the still water. Firefighters arriving at 3:08 a.m. noted the blaze's unnatural ferocity, walls collapsing too quickly, windows erupting outward as if pushed by force. Amid the smoke, a lieutenant spotted something odd: gas cans chained to the porch pillars, their nozzles rigged with spark plugs wired to a timer. This wasn't an accident. It was a countdown. Inside, crews found a nightmare dressed as coincidence. The basement stairs, half-charred, led to a concrete room lined with soundproof foam. There, zip-tied to a metal bed frame, lay 17-year-old Amy Cole, her mouth sealed with electrical tape. She'd been reported missing 4 days earlier after failing to return from a library study session. A crude Ford drip fed her sedatives, and a camera on a tripod pointed at her face, its memory card wiped clean. Whoever had trapped her wanted an audience. But why leave her alive? The cabin belonged to Thomas Fry, a 42-year-old painter known for haunting landscapes and a reclusive streak. Neighbors called him the Ghost of Willow Lane, a man who ordered groceries online and posted rants about government surveillance. When detectives arrived at his loft downtown, they expected resistance. Instead, Fry offered a smirk and an alibi. He'd been live-streaming a painting tutorial from 8 p.m. until 2:30 a.m., hundreds of viewers watching as he layered acrylics onto a canvas of storm clouds. "Check the timestamps," he said. "I never left my easel." For 48 hours, the alibi held. The stream showed Fry in real time, brushstrokes evolving, his hands speckled with paint. He sipped coffee, answered viewer questions, even took a bathroom break at 11:15 p.m., all while Amy languished 12 miles away. Then, a college student in Oslo paused the video, zooming in on the studio's single window. At 1:47 a.m., Frey's stream showed daylight bleeding through the curtains. Norway's pre-dawn darkness revealed the truth. The footage had been pre-recorded during daytime and looped, with fake timestamps. Fry had spliced in live chat responses using an AI bot, mimicking interaction. The perfect crime, undone by the tilt of the earth. By the time police returned to arrest him, Frey's loft was empty. His computer fan still hummed, the screen displaying a map of Hollowbrook with 3 red pins: the warehouse, the cabin, and a quiet cul-de-sac, Officer Mara Voss's address. In a drawer, they found Polaroids of Mara pumping gas, jogging alone at dawn, her routines catalogued with chilling precision. But Frey's studio hid a darker secret. Beneath floorboards, a folder labeled Templates contained news clippings of unsolved murders, each with handwritten notes on improvements. The fire, they realized, was a replica of a 2002 arson that killed a family of 4. Except this time, the killer had tweaked the script. He'd given the cops a role to play as dawn broke. A park ranger found Frey's car abandoned near a hiking trail, the trunk littered with Amy's hair ties and a half-empty bottle of sedatives. But Fry himself had vanished, his escape route a maze of backroads without cameras. Mara, reviewing the Polaroids, noticed something others missed. The angle suggested someone had been watching her from the oak tree outside her bedroom. The same tree where, that morning, a fresh carving glistened in the bark, a star, matching the turquoise pendant from the warehouse victim. The game had always been meant for 2 players. And now, Mara understood, she was losing. The discovery of Amy Cole alive made headlines, but Hollowbrook's relief curdled when another brush with death struck, this time in broad daylight. High school chemistry teacher Darren Wright was found slumped in his Prius, submerged in the shallows of Lake Merritt. A bystander waded in, smashing the window with a rock just as water reached Darren's chin. Doctors pumped his stomach, finding traces of a sedative used in veterinary surgeries. His last memory: a flat tire, a stranger offering help, then nothing. Detectives initially wrote it off as a botched robbery, until a retired cop recognized the method. In 1998, a serial killer named Joel Haskins drowned victims in their cars after luring them with phony breakdowns. Haskins had died in prison a decade earlier, yet every detail matched: the drug, the lake, even the make of the car, a model Haskins had favored. The revelation sent a cold ripple through the department. Someone wasn't just copying crimes, they were resurrecting ghosts. Mara dug into Haskins' old case files, her desk buried in photocopied reports. Each victim had been targeted after minor run-ins with the law: a shoplifting charge, a noise complaint, a parking ticket. The connection seemed trivial until she cross-referenced the new cases. Amy Cole had been fined for trespassing weeks before her abduction. Darren Wright had reported a vandalized mailbox. And the warehouse victim, now identified as waitress Elise Rivera, had called 911 about a stalker ex-boyfriend, a claim dismissed as dramatic. Every recent target had interacted with law enforcement over petty issues. And every call, every report, had been logged by the same dispatcher, Lena Hart. Lena, a 15-year veteran with a reputation for sardonic efficiency, denied everything. Her workstation was searched, revealing nothing but nicotine gum and a stack of crossword puzzles. But her access to emergency logs gave her the blueprint to track potential victims, their addresses, routines, vulnerabilities. Pressure mounted until a patrolman recalled a detail: Lena's husband had been Haskins' prison guard. She'd attended his funeral in 2008. The pieces fit too neatly, and Mara grew uneasy. Why would Lena, savvy enough to evade digital traces, leave such an obvious human trail? Surveillance teams trailed her for days, finding only trips to a diner and a flower shop. Then, an anonymous tip led investigators to a storage unit rented under Lena's maiden name. Inside, they found a shrine, Haskins' news clippings, a lock of his hair sealed in plastic, a handwritten letter praising his artistry. But the ink was fresh, the dates on the clippings wrong. Haskins' arrest had made front-page news in April 1998. These headlines were dated March. As doubt swirled, another near-miss occurred. A nurse, Kate Bilson, narrowly escaped being pushed in front of a train after reporting stolen medication. The method mirrored a 1976 case never linked to Haskins. Lena couldn't have known those details. She hadn't been born yet. Yet in Kate's apartment, police found a bouquet from the same flower shop Lena frequented, its card and signed. Mara sat in her car outside the shop, watching rain slide down the windshield. The cases were a collage, stitched from different eras, different killers. Lena might have been a disciple, but the mind orchestrating this wasn't nostalgic. It was studying, adapting, perfecting. And somewhere in the storm, a shadow laughed, knowing the truth. The closer they got to Lena, the farther they were from him. The surveillance footage from Lena Hart's apartment showed nothing unusual, just a tired woman microwaving leftovers and flipping through TV channels. But Mara couldn't shake the feeling they were missing something. Then, the forensic report came back on the knife found in the abandoned warehouse. Traces of a rare pesticide, azinphos methyl, clung to the blade, a chemical banned in most states but still used sparingly by one local farm, Ryland Orchards, owned by the mayor's brother, Greg Ryland. Greg had been a cop once, a decorated detective until a botched drug raid left an unarmed teenager dead. He'd quit the force under a cloud of suspicion, retreating to his family's apple orchards. On paper, he was a recluse, but his police training meant he knew how investigations worked, how to avoid leaving evidence, how to manipulate timelines. When Mara and her partner arrived at Ryland Orchards, they found the main house empty, the door unlocked. Inside, Greg's computer screen glowed with a live feed of Hollowbrook's emergency dispatch system, the same system Lena Hart operated. Before they could process the implications, a call crackled over the radio. Greg's farm was on fire. By the time fire crews arrived, the barn was a skeleton of blackened beams. In the ashes, investigators found a locked metal box containing a collection of VHS tapes, each labeled with a date and a name. The footage showed old crime scenes, some decades cold, filmed from angles that suggested police access. One tape stood out, a grainy home video of a young Greg Ryland sitting beside Joel Haskins in a prison visitation room. The date stamp placed it 3 weeks before Haskins' death. The discovery sent the department scrambling. Had Greg been Haskins' protégé? A fan? Or something worse? The answer came in the form of a ledger hidden beneath Greg's floorboards, a meticulous record of every near murder in Hollowbrook, complete with notes on what went wrong and how to improve. The entries weren't written in Greg's hand, though. They matched Lena Hart's distinct, looping script. Mara's blood ran cold. Greg and Lena weren't just connected, they were collaborators. Greg provided the knowledge, Lena the access, and together they were refining the art of the almost perfect crime. But one question gnawed at her: why let the victims live? The answer came when a tech analyzing Greg's hard drive found encrypted files, dozens of them, each labeled with an officer's name. Mara's file contained photos, schedules, even the passcode to her home alarm system. At the bottom of the screen, a single line of text flashed. Heroes need monsters. Let's give them one. Greg wasn't trying to get away with murder. He was orchestrating a performance, casting the police as saviors while he and Lena pulled the strings from the shadows. And now, with Lena in custody and Greg's farm destroyed, the script was about to change. Mara just didn't realize yet, she wasn't the hero in this story. She was the next victim. The coordinates arrived at 3:17 a.m. as a text from a burner number, geolocated to a payphone near the river. No message, just numbers leading to the abandoned Blackwater Bridge, its rusted girders sagging over Whitewater Rapids. Mara went alone, against protocol, her gut screaming trap but her pulse steady. Floodlights from her cruiser illuminated the scene in jagged slices, frayed ropes tied to the railing, their ends dangling over the edge. Below, a woman thrashed in the current, her wrists bound to a weighted crate. Even through the spray, Mara recognized Lena Hart's auburn hair, her mouth gagged with the same silver tape from the warehouse. Greg emerged from the tree lean like smoke, his police-issue Glock leveled at Mara's chest. He'd shaved his beard, dyed his hair black, a man erased and rewritten. His voice, when it came, was calm, almost amused. He explained how easy it had been to manipulate Lena, a grieving woman who'd spent years idolizing the killer who'd shared her husband's prison block. How simple to nudge her into leaking dispatch logs, to make her believe she was honoring Haskins' legacy. But Greg's real project wasn't murder. It was myth-making. Every town needs a monster, he said, circling Mara as Lena's cries muffled beneath them. And every monster needs cops playing hero. The warehouse, the cabin, the drowning car, all staged near misses designed to make Hollowbrook's police look infallible. But Greg had grown bored with the game. Now, he wanted an ending. Mara lunged for her sidearm. Greg fired first, but the shot went wide, sparking off the bridge railing. He'd missed on purpose. SWAT sirens wailed in the distance, responding to Mara's silent panic button. Greg grinned, backing toward the river's edge. "You'll never prove I planned any of it," he said. "Lena's fingerprints are on every piece of evidence. Her shrine, her notes, even the knife." Then, with a salute, he stepped backward off the bridge. Mara dove for the ropes, heaving Lena up as the crate below her snapped loose, vanishing into the rapids. By the time backup arrived, Greg was gone. No body, no trail, just a single boot caught on the rocks downstream. Lena, hypothermic and hysterical, babbled about being forced to fake the shrine, to copy Greg's handwriting. The files on Greg's computer? Encrypted beyond recovery. 3 months later, the mayor held a press conference declaring the case closed. Lena resigned, moving out of state. Mara received a commendation she never hung on her wall. On the 1-year anniversary of the warehouse call, she returned to Blackwater Bridge at dusk. The river had swallowed Greg's secrets, but something glinted in the mud near the bank, a turquoise pendant, star-shaped, identical to Elise Rivera's. When she turned it over, 2 words were etched into the metal in tiny, precise letters. "Encore soon." The screen fades to black. Distant laughter echoes under the rumble of the river.